What is the top value needed for women to be strong leader? Yes,
Oh,
Betska.
that's
I'm gonna invite Marion to go
Yeah,
first.
Marion, please, you say.
Yeah, yeah.
Go
that's
ahead.
wow, values. That's a big one because there's so many values that are important in leadership, and female leadership, male leadership, strong leadership, even throughout the different genders. It's not necessarily always specific to women or men. But what I found, one of the biggest values that makes strong leadership is trust. Because what is leadership if there is no trust, right? The saying that goes that show them that you care, and show that um, you have their interest in mind, and you are building this trust as a foundation to leadership. When I don't know if you've ever had a boss or a leader in your life that you weren't trusting, and what that does with that relationship, and what that does with your performance, with your motivation, with the communication, or on the flip side of it, when you have that trust, it's amazing what you can accomplish when you have a good relationship that is built on this foundation of trust. So I'd say one of the biggest values for me that I've seen in strong leadership, and including myself, is building this foundation, creating the trust, and along with that really goes the integrity. Because when we trust somebody that we feel has that integrity, right? If you're lacking integrity, then how can you ever build trust? How can you ever be a valued strong leader? So those two almost to me go hand in hand. And there's so many values, but these are two that stand out for me. And as a third, gratitude. And you see my new little
Yeah,
sign
yeah,
over
yeah.
here,
I
right?
noticed these things.
Gratitude. I think sometimes we get this wrong, right? Like we think we are, as a leader, we're in the center, and other have to be grateful for us, but really it's being grateful for the team, being grateful for the influence, being grateful for the impact, being grateful for the things that we are accomplishing and what others are bringing to the table. And it's almost that reversed role of somebody said to me at some point, it's strong leadership is somebody that realizes they work for the team, right? It's not about them, it's not ego driven, but you have a role and a responsibility. And that brings it to my next value that I believe is really important, and that is responsibility. It's take responsibility, because it's easy to point the finger and say, oh, this person didn't do this and this person didn't do that. And me being in the corporate world, I've seen that so much, where it seemingly is when something goes wrong, it's someone else, and if something goes right, then taking the credit. And it really, to me, in my belief, is that when something goes right, it's not because of something that one person has done. It's a team effort. It's giving the credit that is where credit is due, and taking the responsibility when something goes wrong, right? We've all had our moments of failure. We've all had our moments of something going wrong. And when you are in a leader, it's a fortunate and sometimes unfortunate position that you have to take responsibility for what's happening, personal responsibility, and then looking at how can we change that the next time, and giving that support. And that again kind of goes back to the values we discussed before, where there is trust and there is that value and that integrity in that. So it's not separate values, it's something that is intermingled, right? And you can put so many more values there. But for me, I would also say courage is a big
Mm,
one,
mhm.
because we sometimes we have to be courageous. It's not that we are never afraid. As a leader, as a person, I've yet to meet somebody that's never been afraid, but it's moving beyond that, right? And rising up in the moment of adversity, in the moment of things potentially going wrong, in the moments we don't know the answer, because nobody knows all the answers. And that again is where the team comes in, where we are as leaders looking at the different parts of a solution or a decision we need to make, but then deciding and doing it anyways. So I believe courage is a big one, and I can't even rate them because they're like all so important, and there are more, but these would be the ones that I believe in a strong leader, and especially in a strong female leader, which is, you know, part of what we're talking about here, those 5 values. Betska, what do you think?
Well, thank you. And, I was thinking when you mentioned trust, I thought, wow, that is a powerful value. Many years ago, when I left the Canadian diplomatic service and then I went into the private sector, I worked for 3M Canada. 3M, they make Scotch tape and Post-it notes and, sandpaper, and brilliant company. I loved working for those folks. And I had a boss there who very highly educated. I did not have his high level of education, but he trusted me. There was something in him, like he would just give me any kind of a subject or topic and, something to research or whatever, in launch of new products, whatever. And he just somehow knew that I could do it. And that if I had some issues, I would go and talk to him about it. And then later on, when there was a spin-off company from 3M called Harris 3M, he recommended me for the marketing position, national marketing position there. And I just thought, wow, he hardly knows me, but something in my energy field made him trust me. So I can really attest to that. Well, and you know what, Marion, when you asked me about my 5 values, this one is one of mine. Pretty cool, eh? So let me start. Raj, go ahead.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's a complete summarized answer.
Yeah.
And I totally agree. And it's actually a universal law, the law of karma, what goes around comes around, So when we are grateful for everything, more good things will come our way. So that's why starting each day with that grateful heart sign that you have there is so vitally important. And before we go to bed, and that's why we suggest, and maybe sometime in this podcast as we move along here, that we can discuss how we can show gratitude, how we can show trust, how we can show courage, responsibility, and so on, right? Because those are, each one of those is a deep topic.
Yeah.
So gratitude for sure, but the top one on my list was this one. I take a different route.
Wisdom. Wow.
Wisdom. This one I think is so vitally important, and how we can tap into that wisdom, of course. You've heard me say this over and over again. Men and women have a soul. Our soul is brilliant, and we just simply need to tap into that wisdom. It's sitting there. But if we don't know how to tap into it, we're going to be your average leader. We're talking about strong female leaders here. And yes, it also applies to men. But the how to find that wisdom, tap into that wisdom, is through daily meditation for balanced thinking, so that the leader is accessing the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere at both times, and the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious minds. That is a brilliant leader. So that when you have a problem, you can instantly shift into your right brain and then into your superconscious for solutions. And we can, it's teachable. We can do all of that. So the daily meditation, and then part of that wisdom, and Marion, you touched on this too, was when you said take responsibility. If you make a mistake, like acknowledge it. Wow, that is someone who has a big heart and a big mind, So with wisdom, I'm saying be willing to find your subconscious blind spots and get rid of them. because we all have our blind spots. We know that 95 to 99% of our daily life is run by our subconscious mind. And our subconscious mind, we don't know what's in there. So we have to work at finding what our programming is in that subconscious mind. And so we need to be willing to go there. My second value is on self-acceptance. You know, Marion and Raj, we've been speaking a lot about women loving themselves and valuing themselves, you know, that we are amazing human beings. And so the self-acceptance value and self-love I'm putting together to truly accept that a woman has brilliance, that we are not subservient to men, that we are equals to men. Men and women each have their own strengths, and to use those amazing strengths of both sexes, right? And so for women to accept that they have the ability to be analytical just like men do. Most men have very strong analytical sequencing skills, the left brain stuff, right? But women have access to that. It's just that sometimes they choose to live in their right brain, which is that relationship brain, the creative brain, the innovative brain. And that's why we have problems in corporations where we fight each other, because the men are thinking this way and the women are thinking this way. No, 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 no. We need to learn how to think both ways, that left brain and that right brain way. So I think, and we taught our daughter this from a very young age, to love herself and accept that she is brilliant. And then the third value is interesting one, modesty. To be humble, to be, to not have any ego, to be willing to listen to the opinions of others. I had one executive client who would walk into the room where her people were having a meeting, and she would interfere all the way through. And she just said to them, well, if you folks would just listen to me, I've got all the answers. You wouldn't even need this meeting. No. This is not about you telling people what you know, right? So I taught her WAIT. Why am I talking? Yeah. So this is when you're building a team, you're listening to everybody's opinions and thoughts, and then someone has to make the final decision in the end, which could be the female leader. But give people a chance to grow, because we've said it before, the number one job of a leader, whether you're male or female, is to help other people grow. That's your number one job. So being willing to listen. And I think we've also mentioned before about how to listen. Listen with the ears, listen with the eyes, listen with the heart. Woo! And then listen with undivided attention. That you're not thinking about, you know, what your ego is thinking about this particular act of one of your employees, right? Yeah. It's about really throwing everything else out and listening with those four things that I just mentioned. And then my fourth value was perseverance and prayerfulness. Those combined, the two P's. You know, I learned this in my coaching practice. It's about learning how to pray for help from your higher power when you need it. And trust it, and answers will come instantly. So when I'm coaching a leader and I'm thinking, I don't know what to ask next, I pray. Leader doesn't know I'm praying. I pray. And you know, that next answer comes out of my mouth. The next question, comes right out of my mouth. And it's always amazing to me. So being prayerful is vitally important, and to use that prayerfulness to persevere, to be stronger leaders. So there you go. So wisdom, self-acceptance, modesty, perseverance, and prayerfulness, and gratitude. Yeah.
That's beautiful, Betska. That's very beautiful. I, you know, as you were saying, the last value there, where, you know, if we don't know what to say, and I think everyone has had an experience of that kind, whether you're coaching, you're advising, you're in the corporate world, and you kind of wonder, like, what should I be saying next? And one kind of learning that I've had is when we start being in our own head of, what could be the next question? What are we saying next? Which, by the way, we're not listening if we're thinking this way. We're also not connecting, right? We're not connecting to the person, because when we start putting the other person into the center and into the focus, and we truly listen in to what they say, that question, that answer, that connection is established, and only then we can truly provide that value. And that was something that early on in my career, when we feel that now we're in this leadership role, we have to have the right answer, we have to have the right question, right? Whatever the case might be, that at the end of the day, as we're maturing in leadership, we realize that it's not about us, it's about them.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
And
Totally.
and that goes, and that really resonated with me what you said there, and actually the self-acceptance that you brought up, which I also feel is a very, very important one, because that self-acceptance sometimes is not only between the genders, male and female, but it's also that seeming competition, right? That we measuring up and saying whether that is female with female, or female with male, or the neighbor, or whatever the case might be. It's this feeling of not good enough, that feeling of not fitting in, that feeling of not belonging, that creates a lot of that, where what are we comparing ourselves to, right? Why are we even starting to compare yet? It is something that is so embedded into our societies, embedded into the corporate world. And that comes from a mindset of scarcity, I believe, because it's, if you are here, that means I am here. And perhaps tapping into the power of collaboration, the power of supporting each other, is the way out of that. And I believe self-acceptance is a big component of that as a foundation. So thank you for sharing that. I think that is amazing.
Yeah.